Hello everyone, this is Victor here from Fan of the Podcast. Just got done watching the Xbox reveal event, and I'm here to give you my impressions on everything that happened, and of course we'll have full details on the podcast this week, but this is just some immediate reactions as to everything that has just happened. First of all, of course, what was the new system called? I went in fully expecting it to be called Xbox Infinite or Xbox, just Xbox. And instead they come out with Xbox One, sort of trying to highlight the fact that it is an all-in-one system, or maybe that it is the number one system, trying to better itself and surpass Sony, or whatever. Overall, it was kind of the opposite of what Sony did at their presentation back in February. Sony was really highlighting like games where a system for games were made by developers for developers, making it really easy for them. Whereas this one, they come out sort of doing the same thing that they'd been doing with the 360. That they're really highlighting the fact that it is an entertainment hub of a machine. And of course, that's not really a bad thing. That's definitely something that's going to push sales, and it's definitely one thing that helped it be the best-selling console of this generation. Of course, right behind the Wii, not important. They come out showing that this thing streams live TV. At least that's what I think it is. I don't know if it's going to be an integrated cable box or whatever, but you can watch live TV on this thing, and it's supposed to know your preferences and help you find new shows and things like that, and that's really something that it's really good for casual customers. And also showing this really cool thing where you can just like switch between all the apps in real time, immediately switch from a game to watching TV, and that's actually something that's really cool. As well as the multitasking feature, which sort of, it didn't really blow me away, but of course it's not something that I've seen done before, and really it's really interesting. Multitasking is not to the level that it was shown. Basically, what happened is they're just watching TV, and then the guy just says Xbox, snap it, like on the sideline it brings up Internet Explorer, and you can like search for things like that and control it with your smartphone. So it's definitely much more of a connected device, and that's really interesting. Of course, they're emphasizing smart glass more and more. Right, hardware reveal. Of course, if you saw the Sony event, they didn't show hardware. They just showed the controller. And here at the Xbox event for Xbox One, they showed the console. It's a very sleek looking console, very simplified, very square, very boxy. Not much to say on the console itself, but they really redefined Kinect and remade it. It's now greatly improved. The tracking on it is leagues better than it was before, actually being able to detect minute movements of your joints and properly gauge depth and such. While on stage, he showed this thing where he showed that you can grab the screen and move it around like that to switch between apps. I'm not sure if it really has one-to-motion finger tracking, which if it did, that would be very impressive. But the level of fidelity that they showed here, it's still nothing to be laughed at. It's quite impressive. The new controller is also very similar to the Xbox controller. It still maintains the same form factor, though supposedly the battery pack is more subdued. It's not as pronounced as it is on the 360 controller, with everything else still pretty much being the same. The sticks layout are the same, the texture looks a little bit different, and the D-pad is supposedly improved. We'll have to wait and see how that actually maintains. And again, no start and select button. It looks like we're doing away with that for this generation. And supposedly more dynamic triggers that give you feedback and such. As for what that means, I'm assuming some sort of rumble feature or something like that, making it more tense, more difficult to pull down when depending on the situation. I don't know. Remains to be seen. Xbox Live has also been significantly redesigned, integrating cloud storage and immediate recognition of you when you sit down. When you sit down, turn on the controller, it knows who you are, and it automatically adjusts your premises. It was something that was showed on the original on the 360 a few years back at E3, where you call your name and it knows who you are. But at this point, it knows who you are right from the time you sit down. And what was his name? Yusuf gives some phony science explanation. Doesn't really matter what it is. Very interesting. And that, along with a few presentations afterwards where they brought in some developers, they really only brought in three. They brought in, or well, four. They brought in EA, Microsoft Studios, Remedy, which is a studio that I'm not actually familiar with, and Activision to show games. And that's four, and we didn't see many games. We saw the new EA Sports games, which are running on a new engine called Ignite, which promises much more lifelike movement. New Forza 5, which will be a launch title with dynamic environments and really detailed-looking graphics. Looks just as good as Drive Club did at the Sony event, if you remember that one. A new game from Remedy called Quantum Break, which looks to be part TV show, part game. I didn't really understand what they were going with that. And as well as the fact that they intend to have 15 new exclusive titles and 8 of them being new IPs. So they're definitely trying with games. But the big impression that I got after this whole event is that they spent a lot of time talking about entertainment. Talking about the services, the live TV, that it's a product for the living room. Not as much time on games. I don't want to spend a lot of time comparing it to the Sony event. I'll spend a lot of time on that on the podcast this week. But that's just how it was. Sony spent the whole hour talking about games. Touched that it's by developers for developers, whereas this one is for the player. And what I think that means is that you, as a player or as a consumer, you don't only want games. You want it all integrated with your TV, with your Netflix, with all that. And you might. I'm sure there's a bunch of people that do. There's definitely 70 million people that probably do. And that's what they pushed on. And that's definitely what they're going to, that's definitely the consumer base that they're going to hit. Those are the people that are going to buy this console. Those that want it for entertainment. And that's a bigger pool than just the gamers. And, of course, sales-wise, it's really going to help them. But down the line, I think that's going to make it a bit more difficult to get great games out of it, especially if you have one console telling that we are for games. We are looking for developers. We're making it really easy to develop for. And of course, Xbox said that as well. They said that this thing's going to be really easy to develop for. And, oh, by the way, the specs are pretty much the same as PlayStation 4. Blu-ray drive, 8 gigs of RAM. Infrastructure for developers, I'm not sure how much different that's going to be. I've heard that it's really difficult to get games on Xbox Live, whereas on PSN it's leagues similar, so I don't know if that much has changed, but they do say that they intend to make things a lot easier for developers. Basically, if you're making a console for games, you're going to get great games. If you make the console for gamers, you're going to get big, flashy franchises that we've had over this past while. That's really, it's that's sort of the feel that I got from this presentation. There was a lot of celebrity interviews, a lot of athlete interviews. Basically, the same things that we see at E3. The guys that make the most money are the guys that are out here talking about the system, not exactly guys that care about games. And is that a bad thing? No, you are definitely giving your consumers what they want. If they want EA Sports and they want the new Call of Duty, that's what they're getting. So it seems to me that this is not exactly a console for the gamer nearly as much as the PlayStation 4 is, and I don't want to spend a lot of time complaining because I might be totally wrong by the time this thing's out at launch. Basically, I've been a bit cynical about this presentation during the whole time that it was on. It was all the same thing as we've always seen with Xbox. Really flashy, a lot of money thrown at it. And of course Sony's been the same way. But it's just a little disheartening that they didn't spend the whole time talking about games, which is what I think really matters. That's what matters to me, definitely. But all remains to be seen. And we'll definitely be talking about this for the majority of the podcast this week. And I'm really interested to see how Aaron and Gustavo react to this. And so I'll leave you there. And make sure you listen to the episode this week, and make sure you listen to this week's episode. Episode 38, I believe. Yes, finally the podcast, episode 38, Don't Be That Guy, as well as our Star Trek spoiler cast. You get a double feature this week. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Phantom Top Podcast. Follow us at phantompodcast.tumblr.com. And we'll see you soon.